going on, guys? We are back with another video today. Today we are still out on the smallmouth fishing grind. It is still a few days before walleye season opens here in northern Wisconsin. But if you're a walleye freak, don't worry, because we have a pile of walleye content we'll be filming the next couple weeks here. But today we're going to talk about a very finessey, very cool, very practical way to catch smallmouth bass in the spring. It's a way that's definitely gaining popularity in the last several years now, and that is fishing with a hair jig. So today we're going to go a lot into this absolutely incredibly deadly effective way to catch pre-spawn smallmouth, especially when the water is cold and you have a day that looks like this. Light winds, you know, the high skies, very probably finicky fish that come up onto these shallow flats very early. You know, the water's still very cold. I got 43-degree water, and a lot of times this first wave of smallmouth that comes shallow up on a lot of these flats is very spooky, very slow moving, and a very finessey approach like a hair jig to catch a pile of bass. So I got to put the trolling motor down, spot lock on this little reef thing I'm going to be fishing here, and get after it. Stay tuned. I think we're going to catch them. Fish on. Like second cast, and it feels like a good one. Too much fun. Such a slow and subtle way to fish, but just absolutely deadly. Look at that one. That is too cool. I applaud the Wisconsin DNR for opening up this catch and release smallmouth season. Fish up here generally spawn. I'm gonna go ahead and net this one. Fish up here generally spawn like that first, second week in June. So we're obviously doing nothing to disrupt the actual spawning season of these smallmouth. And they obviously all get released. Look at that. There's a beautiful one right there. Munched that little hair jig. Too cool. Very light jig. Deadly effective in the spring. We're gonna let that one go. Hooked up. Oh, too much fun. There he is right away. That one actually hit it pretty decent. He kind of loaded up on it and then just ran. Super subtle though, and an absolute killer really all season. But I think this thing really excels when the water's pretty cold and you're dealing with a lot of lethargic, slow moving fish. I mean, there's not a big one by any standards for this lake, but we've only been fishing for a couple of minutes now. Look at that, this little chunker football of a fish right there. We'll take it. Some go. See you later, dude. Next cast. This one just got heavy. He didn't feel very heavy at first. He's running very weird. I don't know if this is a little walleye. Okay, he's getting bigger now. Not a giant, but a nice one. Look at that. It's actually a pretty decent fish, I would say. This one's all of 3.5 pounds. Look at that surly. Crushing them on the hair jig. Too cool. That one's just a blimp too for its length. Probably only about an 18.5, 19-inch smallie, but just an absolute chunk surly. Let's go ahead and scoop them up. There we go. Another great part about a hair jig, is you hardly ever lose a fish. Pretty much all of them get hooked extremely well. Look at that one. That one's just skin hooked, but he was not going to come off. Look at that tiny little presentation. That an absolute chunk of a smallie for how big he is. Too awesome. Take him like that all day long. Let's let him go. Look at that, beautiful clean water. Too cool. All right, so time to talk about the gear side of things. What is a hair jig? What kind of hair jig are we fishing? Rod, reel, line, because all that stuff plays an absolutely crucial role. There's some presentations where you can throw it on just about anything. But a hair jig is one of those things where you want to have a very finely tuned system for throwing these things. So we'll start with the hair jig here. This is the one I am throwing today. This is I believe a 3/32 ounce Kalen's hair jig. I like all black. Guys who do this a ton, I'll tell you, it's pretty much a black or all black with some purple in the mix. These very natural colors, very, very light presentation, right? You can see how simple and small that is. I can even put it next to like a regular size tube here, and you're gonna see the difference. This is a very small, very finessey presentation, very lightweight. So it's great up shallow. Because it is so light and so finessey, you need basically a very finely tuned rod and reel and line to throw this thing on, right? So what I like to do is, first of all, I like a 7.5 foot, something over 7 feet long, in a medium light or even a light action. You know, this is a very, very small presentation. Like I said, very light. It's almost like throwing a crappie jig on a bass setup. And on top of that, I like to keep my, I don't run like a 15-pound fluorocarbon leader. I go all the way down to like 6 or 8 a lot of times, just so this thing acts more normal in the water, number one, and number two, so it's much lighter to cast. And you can run 10-pound braid or even smaller than that if you wanted to, but a very, light setup overall. And you need the long rod so that you can throw this thing out there very far. I'll kind of show you, see if I can even get in the clip here, the action of this. This is a 7.6 medium light fast action Elliott rods. It's a very long setup for probably what a lot of guys are used to fishing on a spinning reel, but it has a lot of flex throughout the rod, and I can throw a very light bait a very long ways. When you're casting this thing, you obviously need to have it wet first, because this is a marabou jig, so it soaks up water, and that'll help me cast it a lot farther. But what you're not gonna be able to do is like whip it like this. You wanna let a lot of line out on the cast, and it's almost like you're using all that momentum and length of the rod to throw this thing a very long ways. So I like the braid because you can feel every little tick of the rock. You can feel anytime a fish picks it up, which is a very, very soft bite, and that's kind of the deal. Very light, very smooth reel, and Pissy Fun Carbon X 2000 or the 1000 work good for this. And another tip to help you up is fill your spool very full on the reel. This will help line get out far. This really helps you with anything, especially with something like a hair jig where it's just very difficult to throw these very far. So that's kind of the setup there. We want a very sensitive rod, obviously, number one, like this 7.6 medium light Elliott, something you can feel every little tick. The braid helps you with that as well. And overall, just almost downsizing everything and going to very light, long setup is gonna help you guys throw this thing and catch a lot more fish on it. Oh boy, was that subtle. Look at that. I almost did like a double take on that. The bite was so soft, but when the water's this cold, this one's running at me too. Oftentimes it is a very soft, subtle deal. Very rarely do they just straight up KO this thing. Man, they are fighting weird today. They're coming at me and they're running hard. It's not a giant, but man, the quality is too good. Too much fun. Still on spot number one. And you just gotta go so slow and take your time. Look at that thing, just another toad. Like I said, these aren't like giant lengthwise fish, but the build on them is incredible. Scoop them up. Oh, look at that. Another beautiful northern Wisconsin smallie. Fishing clear water is one of my absolute favorites because these fish just look so cool out here in it. Look at that one, just a perfect fish right there. Tough to beat. Awesome, awesome fish. Tall build, fat as can be. Not a super long one, but awesome fish. Let that guy go. See you later, buddy. All right, so how do you fish the hair jig? Now this part's pretty interesting. It's extremely subtle. Basically, you're getting it out there just as far as you can. And I like to go all the way down the bottom. You know, if you're fishing a lot of like 1 to 5 feet, I won't count it down like this. But if I'm fishing kind of these deeper flats like I am now, you know, that 8 to like 13 feet, I'll definitely get it down there a little bit. And it takes a little bit of time. But once you're on the bottom, basically all you're doing is just this extremely slow reeling. And I'll kind of throw a pause in there once in a while. I'll just kind of pop the rod tip barely once in a while. But it is just unbelievably slow. I mean, you can see how slow I'm going. Just count it down. And a lot of times you can kind of feel it ticking the rocks too. And if I do that, I'll just kind of pop the rod tip so it just kind of lifts that bait a little bit. And I'll just kind of go right back down. It's not bad to be ticking the rocks a lot of times, but you obviously don't want to get stuck in the rocks either. And a lot of times fishing these super light hair jigs, you don't really get stuck in the rocks too much because it's so feather light, it doesn't really get into those cracks of the rocks. But that's basically all it is. Now when you get a bite, most of the time you might feel the rod tip pop and just start to load. But most of the time it's almost going to be like you're stuck in the rock for a second. You're just going to feel that rod kind of start loading up very slow. And that's where it helps having a medium light rod. So you can have that fish load up on there without the fish detecting something's wrong. Super slow like this. It's just a very slow and methodical way to fish. And the bite's most of the time very subtle, which is why it helps to have braid on. But this is kind of the deal. If you're not used to fishing this way, it's tough to almost go slow enough a lot of times. And because of that, a lot of times it helps to either A, know where these fish are like I do, because they're kind of on this same little point complex every spring, or if you kind of work at a spot, let's say you catch a fish on a jerk bait or a swim bait or something, you know, kind of keep a mental note or drop a waypoint where those fish are, and you know, come right back to them with a hair jig, because there's probably more sitting there. You're not going to really fish through a whole lot of fish with a hair jig on. Hair jig is about as subtle as it can possibly be. Just absolutely deadly effective in the spring like this, especially if you get high skies. These fish are kind of, you know, water's real cold. These fish are real lethargic and timid the first time they get up on these flats in the spring. Really anytime until they're pretty much post spawn. So absolute killer way to fish. Kind of surprised I haven't caught one on camera yet, but we'll keep casting, hopefully get one for you guys. There's a good fish. There's a good fish. Oh yeah. That is what we are looking for right there. Chunker right next to the boat. There he goes, way under the boat. Too much fun. I love doing this in clear water. You know, I'm not a big bass guy. I'd probably rather be fishing walleyes most of the time, but this is an absolute blast. Look at that thing. See him digging down there. And that is a better fish for sure. We got a chunker on, Surly. We got a good one. Yeah, we got a good one. Grab my net. Definitely for this one. Here, buddy. Oh yeah. That is a hefty smallmouth right there. That is definitely the size and quality in which we're looking for. Again, hair jig stuck perfectly right in the mouth, and look at that one. That is a tall one. That is what we are after. Too cool right there. Absolutely awesome. Well, that is gonna do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this video. It'll probably be one of the last smallmouth ones we do for a while, but the hair jig is an absolutely unbelievably powerful way to catch finicky, really smallmouth any time of year, but especially in the spring when they get up on these flats in clear water, dirty water. It's just an absolutely deadly and very finessey way to fish, and it pretty much works everywhere you can fish smallmouth. So if you haven't had confidence in it before, hopefully this video helped you out. And yeah, it's a killer way to catch fish all spring. So I don't know what we're gonna be doing next or where we're gonna be filming next. We still have a couple days until walleye season is open here in northern Wisconsin. But I am looking forward to getting out on the walleye grind, and hopefully you guys enjoy the walleye videos to come. If you're not yet, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.